And welcome back to the Leeds Lens for your Brentford versus Leeds United match reaction. And I think every time you get a draw in a game, you've got to look at it and go, was that a good point, or was that a point gained or 2 points lost? And for me, that is definitely a point gained for Leeds United. I think that's a really good point for Leeds United. I'm really happy with the final result. I think going into the game, Brentford had won 5 of their 7 home games, drawing 2. They were unbeaten at home going into the game. And I think you look at the game, I think they lost against Man City actually, but they'd won 5, I think, of 7 home games. And you look at it and you go, this is a really tricky ground to go to. It's been a really tricky ground to go to all season. It has been for a number of seasons when Frank was there. Obviously now Andrews has been there. They've got a striker in Thiago who's second top scorer in the division. They're a good team, Brentford. They are a good team. Many teams, Liverpool have gone there and lost. Newcastle have gone there and lost as well. So I'm not going to take anything away from Brentford. They are a good team. And I think what we did today was we did what we've been calling for Leeds United to do away from home. We've been calling for Leeds United to be more stable away from home, more disciplined, not as sort of pro, maybe on the front foot, maybe play more long ball, but also give a fight in a game, have some fight in the game in terms of get to the end of the game and still be in the game. Like you watch us against Forest, and it was just far too easy for Forest just to win the game, and I don't think they had to really try in the game almost to beat us, and we were just there for the taking. Whereas today, much better, a really good result. And I think coming off the 2 games that we had previous going into this game, obviously the 3-1 winning over Chelsea, 1-1 against Liverpool, 3-3 against Liverpool, you was like, we were all saying, don't go into Brentford now. We know I've got bad away form. Don't go into Brentford now and just throw it away, all that hard work. Go into it and put a solid performance in. And that is what Leeds United did today. So honestly, it's a really solid point. And I thought what we did really well today is we matched them physically. Brentford are such a physical team, and they've got so much quality from a physical standpoint. They've also got that lad with that coyote who's the most ridiculous long throw I've ever seen, and we managed it really well. We defended really well. We defended well from set pieces. We defended well from the long throws that they offered. We just defended well, and I think the centre halves deserved to get something from the game, and I think Leeds United deserved to get something from the game today. I thought we were unlucky to go 1-0 down. A bit of a slight lapse of concentration, obviously, with Rodon, Bogle and Tanaka down that right-hand side for the goal. But, you know, in a 90-minute performance, stuff can happen. And I thought, to be honest, with the way the ball rebounded back to Henderson and it went in off Bogle's foot, it was slightly unlucky, to be honest, to be behind in the game. But then when you get behind, you're thinking, oh, no, we've done all this work. We deserve to get something out of the game. And then I'm thinking, to be honest with you, we're not going to get anything out of this game now. We've done all this work and we're now going to finish the game without getting anything. But it was deserved for me to get that goal in the 82nd minute from Calvert-Lewin. Great bowling from Gnonto, by the way. Ampadu wins a fantastic tackle going into that. Great ball, gets it out to Gnonto. Great delivery into the box. And we know Gnonto's got that quality. And I think a lot of people on this channel, when we've been talking about if we are playing a 4-3-3, who should play on the right-hand side, Gnonto or Aronson? We've always said Gnonto because he's got that extra quality in the final third, and you saw that with the cross today for Calvert-Lewin. Calvert-Lewin comes up, does what Calvert-Lewin does best, get balls into the box, and Calvert-Lewin will score goals. Again, another thing you guys and me have said on this channel, get the ball into the box, Calvert-Lewin, give him a chance to score a goal. We gave him a chance at Wolves, he scored a goal there. We gave him a chance today, and he scored a fantastic header, lovely cushioned header into the far corner. And he's now on some fantastic form. Having scored 1 in his first 8 games, he's now got 4 in 4. And now he's looking like the striker that we're paying, whatever wage we are paying to, and we're getting value out of him. And now he's on to 5 goals for the season. You've got a striker there, actually, with the extra with 4. And you're going, he could get double figures now. And that's, again, a real positive. So I'm really pleased with it, but I'm also really pleased, as I said, because I did feel like we didn't have a strategy away from home. I really felt like that. I thought we were just a walking time bomb away from home and just almost ready to lose at any point away from home. And the Brighton performance and the Forest performance summed that up. But going to this 5-back, I must admit, I don't think it offers loads going forward. And I don't think we were blessed with opportunities today. I thought actually we had more opportunities than they did, but I thought it was probably a draw was probably a fair result. But one thing it does do for me is it makes us so much defensively better. We're so strong defensively in a 5-back, especially away from home. So now when we go to the big grounds, I think you set up in that 5-back and you really make it hard for the opposition, and you sit in a block and you basically force them to break us down, which is what we did for Brentford. It almost felt a bit as well, I don't know if you guys thought this, it almost felt to me a bit like a Fulham performance where we went there, sort of slowed the game down, suffocated them, stopped them sort of increasing the pace of the game, made it really scrappy, made it really slow. And obviously against Fulham, we gave the game away in the 92nd minute. But today, we got our reward and we got the result from the game. What were some of your comments? Ollie on says, evening Scott, great result, that really pleased. I completely emulate your comment. Ollie, completely agree. I just completely agree. I'm really pleased. I also think it's better as well when you, like, if we'd have gone 1-0 up and they'd have scored in the 82nd minute, you'd be a bit disappointed. But I think when you go 1-0 down, you're much more optimistic, which I think is just a football fan thing. I mean, it doesn't take away from the point. The point's the point. But both times now, we've gone behind in games and come back in the last two. And we're starting to pick up points now in games that you probably just didn't expect us to do 2 weeks ago. And also, by the way, Daniel Farker has come for a lot of criticism on this channel in the Leeds space in general. And he's doing well at the moment. He set us up really well today, I thought. People might go, oh, it was a bit pragmatic. But we've got to do that. We're not one of the best footballing teams. And I've got to be honest, if you want a negative, which I don't want to get into too many negatives, because it was a really good performance and really strong. And obviously the West Ham result made it all fantastic. But I think the reason Daniel Farker, for me, has to set us up like that is we're not that good on the ball, in truth, are we? We're not like, we've got a few players. I think Gnonto's pretty good on the ball. I think Okafor at times is good on the ball. But in general, as a team, we are quite scruffy on the ball. So we've got to set up in a much more sort of rigid system and use the long ball a lot more, which we did today. And I think the five back works for that. So yeah, as I said, Daniel Farker, for me, today squeezed everything he could out of this Leeds United team to get a result, and I thought it was really good management. I thought we were really good management. It was a bit of a mistake on the goal, a bit unlucky I felt for the goal that we gave away. But then he changed the system, changed the game. We went to a 4-back and we got back into the game that way. And obviously we get the reward and Calvert-Lewin scores a goal. But as I said, really solid point. Jack says solid point, hard place to go. 100%. As I said, Liverpool have already lost there this season. Newcastle have already lost there this season. It's a really solid point. We're in good form, says Clive. Yeah, I completely agree. Calvert-Lewin scoring as well. Yeah, 100%, mate. That's fantastic. I know we've conceded goals, but we look more solid. This is what I mean, mate. Like, what chances did Brentford really have in the game to score goals today? I didn't feel like they created tons of opportunities. And as I said, some of the performance that we've played away from home this season, it could have been like we've lost games, but it could have been even more. Like the Brighton game, we were just hanging on by a thread all game. And as I said, this is where I think probably Daniel Farker gets a bit of credit, a bit of negativity, because he should have set up like this in the Brighton away game. And you never know, we might have grafted out a point there as well. But this has got to be the thing going forward now. I think at home, actually, depending on who we're playing, we can be a bit more dynamic in terms of if we go to a 4-3-3 or if we play a 3-5-2 system. I think that can interchange depending on who we're playing. Like if we're playing one of the worst teams in the division and we're trying to win the game at home, I think actually going into a 4-3 can work. But I think away from home, I think you've got to be solid and play like that, in my opinion. Clive says, 2 tough home games and a tough away game, and we've got 5 points. Exactly. JB Leeds says, we have a nice 3 points clear of the bottom 3, and West Ham have Man City next. Yeah, they do. The only thing with West Ham, mate, is that after their next game, so obviously they lost there, fantastic for us that, and Aston Villa I don't think deserved to win, but they did actually win. Morgan Rogers got a brilliant goal, but it was fantastic. That was a really good result for us, and as I said, now we've jumped up again, but for me now we've got to go and beat Palace, and hopefully they lose at City, and we can get that 6-point gap, because after Man City away, they've got something like Fulham at home, Brighton at home, Wolves away, and somebody else pretty poor at home. Like, they've got a really, really good next 4 where I think they are going to pick up points in. So it's important for me that hopefully we can capitalise against Crystal Palace in a game I think we should be able to get points in. They can lose at Man City and we can really start to bridge that gap. And we can really put pressure on them that they've got to pick up points in them big 4 games that they've got coming up. All I care about is staying up above West Ham and Burnley, and it's over for Wolves. Yeah, that's exactly, mate. But I think Burnley are done as well. We'll talk about, by the way, all this conversation about relegation battle. If you're new to the channel, we basically do a show every Monday, and we talk about what has happened with the relegation battle and sort of where it puts Leeds United. Obviously, from a Leeds United standpoint, it's all about Leeds United. But we also sum up all the other results, so I won't talk about them too much. We were the better side today, says Clive. I actually agree. I don't think we were like, I think on points decision we would have won the boxing fight, but I don't think we were like tons better. I don't think we created tons of opportunities, but I thought we edged the game. But I thought, to be honest, I did think probably a draw was fair because I don't think we were better enough to probably win the game. But that's fine. I have no issue with that. As I said, we've got to be realistic. They're a good team. They've got a fantastic home record. We've been really bad away. As I said, we've lost, since the Wolves game, we've lost every away game. And so to get a point today, as I said, really, really positive. And to not give up a goal right at the end as well. Like the stat came up, I don't know if you guys were watching it on Sky Sports, and the stat came up saying they'd scored the most goals in the 90-plus section, and we'd conceded the most goals in the 90-plus section. And I was looking at it going, oh my God, here we go. But it want to be, and actually they didn't really create anything. And they obviously had that chance right at the end, but actually the referee, it was offside anyway. And we'll talk a bit about the penalty and stuff as well, because I did want to talk slightly about that. I actually don't agree. The change was too late. The thing is, I was talking to my dad and brother about this when it was 0-0. Obviously, they made changes at 0-0, and sort of went to advance the game. They brought on Damsgaard, who I thought was an obvious substitution for them to bring on because I didn't think they had massive creativity. But what I did feel like is when I was looking at it, we were obviously in a 5-3-2 or 3-5-2 system at that point. I've got to be honest, I was looking at it going, they're making changes. I'm not sure what we do. I wondered about doing Gnonto for Okafor. But actually, when you're playing a back five, I didn't really know the changes that we could make in the game. Like, I didn't think when we were drawing 0-0, we should be going to a 4-3-3, in my opinion. I thought the 4-3 is something we can use if we go behind, but I don't think we should be doing it at 0-0, in my opinion. So I was looking at it going, I actually don't really know the changes. I don't think Tanaka had a good game, and potentially could have brought him off. But again, you're probably bringing him off for Gruev. And do we want to do Tanaka for Gruev? I don't know. So I understood why he didn't do changes as long as he did, because if you wanted changes, I'm just interested to know what changes you would have made at 0-0. Would you have gone to a 4-3 quicker? Potentially we could have done, but I didn't think that was the play at the time. So I was struggling actually when I was watching their changes, thinking, what can we do in this game to change the game? I wasn't really sure, if I'm being honest. Keith Andrews is not a good manager, by the way. They played some dire stuff and went to a 5 at the back immediately after scoring. Yeah, I think he thought the game was done at 1-0. And to be honest, I was slightly concerned that the game might be done at 1-0, and we wouldn't get back into the game. But obviously, we went to a 4-3-3, and then we obviously started creating chances. But I don't think they obviously started in a 4-3-3, which is I think the first time they've done it this season. I don't think it really worked. I didn't think they were great on the day, but I think a lot of credit has got to go to Leeds United on that stuff. On that standpoint, we're quite good usually away from making teams really good and look better than they are. Whereas today we did the opposite. We made a team who are quite good and score quite a free-flowing scoring team at home, and we didn't make them look good. We made them look bad, and we neutralised the game. And I watched Sunderland versus Newcastle actually earlier in the day, and Sunderland did the same thing. Sunderland went 1-0 up in the game, and they basically just Regis Labrie just killed the game. And I think that's a real strategy, that if you're up in the game, try kill it. And obviously Keith Andrews tried to do that, but without the same quality. And obviously we get the goal with Calvert-Lewin. Clive says, nah, he's been guilty of late changes a lot in the past, but it didn't need changing today. Yeah, that was my feeling, mate. That was my feeling. So I don't want to give him too much. He's been guilty in the past of making late changes for sure, and we'll criticise him in performances when he does that. He'll probably do it again. But I don't think the changes were too bad. I didn't think the changes were too bad. And not doing the change were too bad, because I was looking at the time, and you got to cast your mind back to what you were thinking on the 60th minute when it was 0-0 and they were making the changes, and what you would have done. And I've written down in my notes, I don't know what I do here, because we don't have abundance of quality to bring off the bench, if we're being totally honest. Richard said, so you'd not make any subs if we didn't concede? As I said, I don't know. I'd probably end up doing Justin right back, and then the later it got in the game, I'd have probably done Gruev for Tanaka. But on the 60th, I probably wouldn't have done it. But I'm anxious to know, Richard, if you wanted to do subs, mate, what subs? Take your back to 60 minutes. We're drawing 0-0. What subs would you have done in a 5-3-2 to change that game? What would you have done? Because I don't think we had loads of options, to be honest, and I don't think Farke had tons of options to do, in my personal opinion. But if you think that, then as I said, tell me who you do bring subs on, because I would be interested to know. JB Leeds says, when we are 1-0 down, I would have generally done what he did against Man City. 1-0 down, and I put attackers on, especially in the 79th minute. Yeah, well, we did. Anyway, we went to a 4-3-3, brought Aronson on, played him in the number 10 role, which is a more attacking change, regardless of how Aronson does, and I don't think he's fantastic. But it's a more attacking substitution. He's a number 10 playing a sort of number 10 role. Brought Gnonto on the right-hand side, put Okafor on the left, and we sort of went for it. And obviously we got our reward for it. But that's what I would have done when it went 1-0, when we went 1-0 down. But at 0-0, I didn't feel that was the play, if I'm being honest. Oli on Tor says, I said Aronson and Gnonto for Tanaka and Okafor. when we conceded, I said Tanaka for be-all, and that's exactly what he did. No complaints with the sub from me today. Yeah, that's where I was. Why is DCL in the Super Studio Sunday Studio? Not sure, mate. I'm not watching it at the moment, so I don't know what it is. One thing I do want to mention, by the way, is at the start of the game, I don't know if you people thought this, but I wanted to mention it because I read it down at the start and I wanted to get it in. I looked at the Brentford team today, and I've got to be honest, I looked at it and thought, there's no Yarmolenko, who I think is quite a good player in their midfield. There's obviously no Damsgaard, he was on the bench, obviously did come on, and they had no Kevin Schade, and I thought, that is not that good of a team. Like, we could play Brentford at a way worse time than this. That doesn't look too bad to me, actually. And I felt we could get something in the game. I was quite encouraged, actually, when I saw their lineup and thought, that's not bad. And I also, in the same regard, I think he nailed our starting 11. I thought that the starting 11 for us should have been what it was. I thought he got the starting 11 bang on. The only thing that I've got with this starting 11 is, and we've talked about the benefits of the 5-back and in terms of off the ball, and I think defensive, as I said, we look so much better in my opinion, so much harder to beat and so much harder to score against. The main problem I've got with it is when you don't have Nemecha and DCL up front together, I do think they struggle up front, the two up front. I don't think DCL's anywhere as near as effective up front when he's playing with Okafor in terms of bringing people into play. I think Nemecha and DCL are comfortably our best two, and I don't think it massively works. Now, I know in the first half, actually, people are going to say, in the first half, Scott, actually, Okafor created quite a few issues, and he did. But in terms of a holding up the ball standpoint and bringing people into play, it's not his fault. Like, with what he could do, Okafor, I thought he had a decent game. But but he's not, in the same regard, he's not a sort of player that's going to be able to hold the ball up because that's not his skill set. I don't think a 5-3-2 works for the whole match. We should have switched formation after 60 minutes. We went flat around that time. See, I disagreed, mate. I've got to be honest. Fair enough if you'd have done that and gone to a 4-3-3 on the 60th minute. I think if you'd have gone to a 4-3-3 on the 60th minute, though, and we conceded, everyone would have been saying, why did we do that? So I think hindsight's a wonderful thing. But if you were saying that at the time, mate, then fair enough. I obviously wasn't watching the game with you, so I can't say. Yeah, never seen that before. I'm not quite sure. Is this about the way that Brentford played? I also felt in the first half, I thought in the first half we were really good. In terms of, look, they had a lot of the ball, but I'm all right with the opposition having a lot of the ball. I think that's fine. I think it's what matters when you're on the ball and what you do with the ball. And I thought when we were on the ball in the first half, we looked better than them. As I said, Okafor had a lot of moments. Sorry, I'm getting a sore throat actually, but Okafor had a lot of moments where he sort of got a ball across. He had that shot that went over the bar, which I think he was a bit unlucky with. The ball came across. If he could have just hooked it over to Bogle, again, I think we'd have been in a good situation. So, as I said, I'm genuinely really content with this game. I am. I thought we just did it quite well. I thought, as I said, we have got a problem, and I will argue this with anybody. I know a lot of people on this channel always talk about sort of this squad could be doing better than it is. I honestly would encourage people when they say that to think about how many mistakes we make on the ball. That's not Daniel Farke's fault, if I'm being honest. We do a lot of poor individual errors on the ball, and we are going to continually do that because we're just not that great on the ball. Like, I thought Stack actually for me stood out today in terms of on the ball. I thought he was actually really strong, and I thought he was the best midfielder by an absolute mile. I thought Tanaka had a really bad game on the ball. I thought he was awful. I don't think he was that great off the ball either. He was Tanaka's worst game of the season for me. I thought he was really bad. But I thought Ampadu again struggled a bit on the ball. Thought Bogle at times struggled. Goodmanson. I think Strout made a few mistakes on the ball as well. We're just not very good on the ball fundamentally, and I think that's why when we see our best results, it probably will be when we go long. Because we can bypass the midfield there and we don't have to play in through the midfield, which we do naturally struggle with, just because we're just not a technically that dominant team. But when you're not a technically good team, you've got to find other advantages in your favour. You've got to play in a way, fundamentally, that suits your playing squad and that gets the best out of your playing squad. And for me, we're not good on the ball, so keep the ball off the floor as soon as possible and get the ball going long, and that's the way we've got to play, because we just can't play through midfield. Like, it is a bit of a worry, that. 4-3-3 against Palace for me. Gnonto in for be-all, the only change. Maybe, mate. I do think we should need to get at Palace. So obviously they've got. I don't want to talk too much about this because it's a reaction show, but they play Thursday and then we play them again on Saturday. That's a horrendous turnaround. They're also picking up a few injuries. Kamada got injured today. Munoz is obviously out. So I think the Palace game definitely has to be here. We've got to get 3 points in that game for me. That is boring on must win because it's such a good opportunity for points. Palace play 3 though, so it matches them up. Yeah, potentially, mate. Although the other things you look at it and go, in that particular game, they're so good at a 5-back. Maybe you don't want to play them at their own game, and maybe if we go into 4-3-3, it could be better. But I don't know. We've been so strong in a 5-back, it seems silly, doesn't it, really? Still find it funny how people were saying that Pro is better than DCL in the Metro. Yeah, I've never understood it, mate. I've never understood it. DCL now is proving why I wanted to stick with him up front. He's obviously got the 4 in 4. And that is, by the way, obviously DCL doing it is fantastic for DCL. But having a striker that's scoring goals is such a positive. That is a real positive for Leeds. Having a striker that's actually in form and scoring goals could be the difference between keeping Leeds in the division and losing it. It really could be. So we've got to having him in form is such a bonus. And actually, Nemecha's not on particularly poor form either. I know he's been out for the last 2, injured. But actually, when he was playing, he was in quite good form. It's a huge positive. Like, does DCL score that chance after 7 sort of maybe not games when he didn't score, maybe not, but because he's in good form and he is scoring at the moment, as I said, it's a real positive. It really is. Palace have not won a match after playing Europe. Yeah, they haven't, mate. As I said, I don't want to get too much into that because obviously we'll talk about that close to the time. But yeah, I agree. By the way, I want to give a shout out as well to the defence today. I thought the defence, the back 3, I know they obviously made a mistake for a goal, but as I said, it is a 90-minute game, so you've got to bear that in mind. But I thought that they've got a striker up front, Thiago, who has been fantastic for Brentford this season. Scored 5 goals in his last 3 games at home for Brentford this season. So a real handful and a nightmare, really, to play against. And actually, I thought we dealt with Thiago so well. Better than I've seen anybody else in the division deal with Thiago. I thought we did a really, really good job on Igor Thiago. He didn't have a sniff all game. And when the ball went long, some of the reasons why we had such dominance in the game at times for me, not massive dominance, but stopped them and neutralised them, was when the ball went long to Thiago, which is one of the fundamentals of how Brentford play, and they play off him, we won that battle. Biol bossed it against Thiago and deserves massive credit for that because he just didn't get a sniff all game, Thiago. We completely neutralised him. And again, when we talk about the benefits of the back 5, neutralising a second most informed striker arguably in the division. Obviously, in Thiago, second most goals in the division, comfortably as well. I thought that was a real positive, and I think the defence deserve a shout out for how they performed up against Thiago because he is a tricky customer, and we did well there. We really did. Palace have not won a match yet. I've read that one. We have not conceded a first half goal since we switched to a 5-3-2. That's interesting, mate. That is interesting. The only thing that I would say is we actually, when in the last 2 games of playing a 5-3-2, we've had to switch out of it when we've been behind both times. Like we actually lost the game in the 5-3-2 and then almost recovered it in the 4-3-3. Like against Liverpool, we were 2-0 down in a 5-3-2. We had then, I know it's mistakes, but we did have to change to 4-3-3. Again today, we were losing and we had to win a 5-3-2 and we had to switch to a 4-3 and we got back into the game. So yes, I agree with you, but obviously there is context I think to apply as well. Day says, I've never seen you in the chat, mate. Day says, DCL for England. Yeah, mate, I'd love to see DCL for England. I actually think the England squad would be crying out for someone like DCL. That's someone that's good in the air, wins physical battles, can bring on late in games and affect games late on in the World Cup. I think he could be a decent option. But I think that's obviously for Tuchel to decide. And we're a long way off the World Cup now anyway. And to be honest with you, I don't want him playing for England camps. Maybe the summer camp he can go to the World Cup. Let's get him out of the March squad and let's wrap him in cotton wool. I just think if we get some quality in January, we'll be sound for staying up. All Leeds that way, says Day. I've never seen in the chat, mate, but I'm agreeing with you. I think we are. I still think we're lacking slight in the final third, and I don't want to be too conned by the fact, not conned as such, because it did happen, but I don't want to be too dictated to by sort of what happened in terms of. Basically what I'm saying is I don't want to be too, how do I word this? I don't want to be too dictated to by the fact that DCL scored a goal. I did think we struggled in terms of a creative capacity in the final third today. I know we obviously scored a goal and that changes the whole dynamic and that's fantastic. But another day, obviously DCL puts that header wide and we're having a different conversation here. So I do think you've got to bear that in mind. But yeah, I agree. I think we do need a bit of quality in the final third, fundamentally. But overall, to wrap up the video there, I hope you've enjoyed it as always. We will do a closing whistle. I think it's probably, I would normally do it at 8 PM, but I feel like it's too early to go again, live at 8. So we can probably do that tomorrow now at 8 PM. And we might do the relegation talk on Tuesday now. That's probably how it's going to work. Just because it feels like we just finished the live and we're going to be going live again in an hour. Don't know, it seems a bit mad. So we won't do that. So we'll do the closing whistle tomorrow after tomorrow at 8 p.m. So stick around for that. Or it'll be 7 p.m. actually. I lied because obviously the Man United play at 8. So 7 p.m. tomorrow for the closing whistle. And then on Tuesday, we'll have the relegation battle update and see where Leeds United are based on the results that happened this weekend. Because truthfully, although West Ham lost, Fulham won, Forest won. It wasn't particularly fantastic. But obviously Burnley did lose, obviously, which was helpful. So, you know. Anyway. But yeah, overall, hope you enjoyed the video as always. Thanks for watching. Really good point today. Really pleased with the point. Not spectacular by any means, but as I said, quite important. And now what? 3 games undefeated. Going into Palace, win that game, and it's looking really rosy going into Christmas. Anyway, thanks all for watching as always, everybody, and I will see you all later. Cheers. Bye.